Thank you for joining myself and the lovely Jade Pheby. This webinar today is about ADHD and its superpowers in the workplace. We are going to more or less hand over. I'm going to try and hand over to Jade, but me and Jade have known each other since, well, 13, and I'll let you guess how old we both are. Jade, you were probably 13. I was probably a little bit older, probably 15 or something like that.
You were probably like, I think it was 16, 17 at the time.
Yeah, and you was just a little wee 13.
You were leading me astray. Why was you taking me out at the age of 14, Nikki?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
bad me. So we're gonna do a lot of talking, probably a lot of interrupting of each other, and talking over each other, and probably going off topic a lot, because that's generally what we do. But we're going to try and stay on track, aren't we, Jade? And
yes,
we will try and also monitor the chat as well, and we'll talk as much as possible right up until about 1:45, so 1:45, and then we'll open the floor up to do some Q&A and then share any best practice. So I think we've got probably about 25-30 people on the call, so if we can keep it really informal at the end of the call and come on and share some stories, that'd be absolutely wonderful. Right, so my name is Nicky Wright. I'm Managing Director of Diversity Jobs Group. I co-founded Diversity Jobs Group about 4 years ago now. It's we have 10 job boards. Actually, one of them is Jobs for Neurodiversity as well. And we work with direct clients. We have about 150 clients that advertise their jobs through Diversity Jobs Group. Oh, I'm just going to let somebody in that's in the lobby. MD, Diversity Jobs Group, a job board or an ED&I specialist job board. And we've also just launched another job board, which is Diversity Jobs Recruit, which is for recruitment agencies. So that's a little bit about me. Jade, can I hand over to you just to do a little intro? Please?
Yes, my name's Jade Pheby, as it says on the slide. My background, I've done sort of 20 years in resourcing, HR, engagement, most recently within hospitality, and today over the last few months I've been working with Nikki at Diversity Jobs Group to support with lots of different things, but then most recently just launched my own business called Pheby Talent Solutions. Clues in the name, Pheby, my surname, but looking after all things talent. So that's very exciting. And apparently if you have ADHD, you're meant to be pretty good at being an entrepreneur. So I thought I'd give it a go. So that's
brilliant. Super exciting. Thanks, Jade.
No problem.
Now, just before I go into the next slide, which is a few questions for you, I know we briefly touched on it there about how we met all those years ago, but do you want to give a bit of a story, Jade, about how we met and a little bit about how we used to work together in our little car chats that we used to have on the way, and then I'm going to ask you some questions. Is that all right?
Yeah. So as Nikki said, we met when we were, I was kind of early teens. Nikki was heading out to late teens. But yeah, we met and we instantly connected. Both very spontaneous, both very excitable. Nikki, you'll know that about her. Both interested in trying new things. We liked going to new holiday destinations, interested in a lot of stuff, which actually makes a lot of sense now. I've recently been diagnosed. January last year, I was given a assessment by a psychiatrist and diagnosed with ADHD, more leaning to ADD, so attention deficit disorder, but with traits of hyperactivity. But kind of makes sense because me and Nikki talk near enough every day, most of the time, and our conversations can jump from, as I said earlier on, if you're on the call, jump from work to where we're going on holiday within the space of 30 seconds, which to some people might be a little bit mind-blowing, but to us it's normal, and I don't really say anything. We just carry on, and it's kind of like we're having a day-to-day conversation, and it's fine. But that doesn't always transpire great in the workplace. So as you can imagine, trying to keep that on track, or do we keep it on track, that's the question, is quite difficult. So but yes, having worked together as well, we at Spirit Pub Company, We learned lots about each other, very similar in working styles. We are quite assertive, which sometimes people can say that's aggressive, which I disagree. We see something as it is, and we speak up as we see it, and sometimes very emotional. But again, if you know much about ADHD, emotional regulation is part of the symptom, one of the symptoms. We do struggle with emotional regulation. So obviously connected really well at work, and we supported each other really well at work, because the one thing I will say about ADHD, and we'll get into it a little bit more, is that sometimes you do feel really isolated and you feel like you just don't fit in. And actually having that tribe around you, having Nicky by my side for most of my adult life and, you know, younger life, has been a great help, because she gets me. And I think that's really, really important outside of work, but also inside of work. You do need that confident and that support network to make you successful, which sometimes you get and sometimes you don't. So yes, she's been a great support, as I have her to her as well. And we've always found that we end up in the same circle again, even if we haven't spoken for a while. So yeah, I'm really passionate about what we do, and we really care deeply. So it's great to have somebody in your life that can support you like that. So if you haven't got that person and you do think you've got ADHD, or you have got ADHD, make sure you've got a support network. You reach out and get a support network, because it's really important, which maybe this group could become that. But yeah, it's definitely important to have and trust.
Amazing. Thanks, Jade.
No
I feel
problem.
like I need to pay you for that, because that was a really emotional speech. I don't think you've ever spoken to me like that.
We've been through lots together, haven't we? You've got to give credit where credit's due.
I'll take that. Thank you. Right. I'm going to see if I can move on to the next slide. And typically with me, who hasn't been diagnosed with ADHD, although lots of my close friends, family and work colleagues believe I have ADHD, these slides were done at 9 o'clock last night. So again, I hyper focus, but last minute, and that's where I'm better under pressure. So Jade, your personal story, journey of being diagnosed with ADHD. How did you first recognise the symptoms, and what led you to seek being diagnosed? So what was it that you what was it in the work environment? Was it friends, family? What was it?
A bit of everything. So I'm going to try and keep this short and concise, because they don't want this to be the life story of Jade Pheby. We need some pointers here as well. But when I was at if you look right back to if I look at my assessment, look right back to school, my school reports, and if some of you on the call that have can remember their school reports, were distracted easily, has a lot of potential, but it is not consistent. And that was kind of my life feedback, really. Actually, people could see I had lots of potential. My teachers could see I had potential, but I couldn't actually put it into force because I got distracted by something bright and shiny elsewhere. And that's one of the questions in the assessment. What did your school report say? What did your teachers say about you? So, if we look back, that's kind of where it all started. Did that make me think I'd got ADHD? No, it didn't. I was always the perfect student, did very well at school. Where I started to, and I'd say I've always felt different, but didn't really know why, all of my life. So, even I emotionally regulate different to everybody else. So for what would say a normal, typical person, which I know that's not the right thing to say, but I can't think of the right thing to say. But, somebody that doesn't have ADHD or ADD won't get emotional if they're not included in an email, right? So that may sound petty, but actually having something called rejection sensitive dysphoria, which is also, thank you, Ruth, neurotypical person, rejection sensitive dysphoria, I have that quite bad. So if I wasn't included in an email, or I didn't feel like I was wanted in a meeting, or I didn't feel like I was heard, I had quite a strong emotional reaction to that.
Yeah, you did. I've been in them scenarios. Yeah, I can remember you coming up to me, you'll never guess what, such and such is not including me on an email, and they've gone directly to, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, and I think
I remember that.
Yeah, and I think from a neurotypical person point of view, they don't understand that. They think I'm just being, and people have said this to me, you need to learn to control your emotions. I don't actually, I don't. Now, I know I've got ADHD. Yes, I do need to put things in place to help myself, but you also need to help me as an employer, because actually all I need is to feel included and supported. And if I think back over those years in different roles, actually where others can control their emotions. I don't know.
I'm glad you're looking at chat, Jade, because I've got the PowerPoint up. I can't see the chat, so it'd be good if you do see something coming through in chat, Jade, let me know.
So no, that with I struggled, and I know other people, that might have been your point, Jordan. They might not always be able to control their emotions themselves, but I might have to turn that off. It's very distracting. Yeah, ADHD massive, but yeah, so I really struggled with that, and where I suppose it really comes to the forefront. I was in lockdown. I was really struggling emotionally, and I'd previously been diagnosed with underactive thyroid. Symptoms are very similar, but then I was really struggling, and I emotionally very down. I just didn't feel adequate. I just didn't feel good enough. So I went to the doctors, and they actually prescribed me antidepressants, but I still didn't feel like that was the right thing. So I pursued it further, and the doctor actually said to me back in early 2020, have you ever thought you might have ADHD? And this was actually before it came onto the TV, I suppose, when everyone started talking about it in the news. And I didn't, but I read all of the symptoms, and most of them were a big tick. Less so on the hyperactive side, but definitely on the ADD side, I ticked all of them. So which led me to going, the NHS waiting list was probably about 18 months, 2 years at that point, because it kind of gone wild, which led me to private diagnosis. And yes, I was diagnosed with ADHD, and it was a great relief, but it was also I felt very sad for my past self not having had the support that I needed.
Huge, isn't it? And that's kind of the next question. And I know you mentioned about the emails and not being included in emails, and you took that, like you was being left out, or you took it really personally, but is there anything else that you had in the workplace that now you look back and you think, well, that's because of the ADHD? Is there anything else that you can think of that if you'd have known, it would have been completely different?
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think for example, to your point when you got on the call, Nikki, I'm excited by new things and new projects. So yeah, I'm real good. If you want something doing quickly, you want a project kicking off, you want people to get on board, hire me all day, because that's what I'll do. People will follow me, and that's not me saying I've got loads of followers, but people get excited with me, and I'll get people on board with what I'm doing. What I'm not so good at is putting a plan together to make that happen. So, and I felt truly judged for that. I've felt truly judged for that all of my life. I remember somebody that I worked for in the past saying to me, you'll never be successful until you can write a plan. And when my type of ADHD, ADD, procrastination is real. So I've got this rejection sensitive dysphoria where I fear rejection. So I procrastinate because I don't want to get rejected. So I won't write that plan because my fear is it won't be right and I will be rejected and told that it's not good enough. So this can go on for hours and hours. So I've had old bosses say to me, why have you not done that yet? Why have you not done that? And for me to say out loud, I've been procrastinating because I feel like I'm going to get it wrong. I just felt like I couldn't say that for so many years.
Yeah.
I was just in this spiral of, and then last minute, I might have it, like as you said, to your point of hyper focus, I'll have this moment of geniusness and I'll work 4 hours solid and I'll provide what needs to happen. But I would have spent the whole week before procrastinating, anxiety ridden, because I just thought I was going to get it wrong. So, and this, what I've learned about my ADD is that is a massive symptom of that. so, you know, it really affected my work career because I just thought I wasn't good enough. But actually, I couldn't control it. I needed support, but I didn't know what support I needed. Obviously, now being diagnosed, I can be a lot clearer with people I work for as to what I need. But sometimes that still doesn't work. So it's still very it's still very new in the work world. I know people are trying, but people kind of, I've had people roll their eyes at me because they don't believe it. And I think it's still really important to talk about this because people need to know why it happens, and it's not, they're not doing it on purpose, they just can't control how they feel.
So would you be better, Jade, if someone said to you, right, I need whatever it was tomorrow, rather than them saying, I need that done within the next 2 months?
Yeah, 100%. Thanks for keeping me on track, Nikki. So what I'd say as a leader and as being a boss, and I think I've, you know, definitely managed people in teams before who have ADHD or neurodiversity, is that what I've learned is that you have to be really concise in your language. You have to be specific and you have to be concise. So if I had a call with a manager, they could talk to me for an hour. They might have had 10 points that they've ticked off their list that they've told me verbally. I will pick up the 2 points that are most important to me and not
run with it
and run with those. And it's not because I don't care. And I've had that feedback a lot in my career. You see me like you don't care, you've just not picked it up. That's completely not why. That isn't the reason why. I just didn't know that was the important. All of those points were really important. So it has to be really concise. So if you have a one-to-one with somebody and you want to support this person that does have ADHD, you have to follow up and you have to be really clear. You have to say, I want this action needs to happen with this person at this time by this date. And it has to be in written, concise language. If you have a just quick verbal conversation, they'll forget most of it. And that's not because they don't care, it's because their brain, we are inattentive. I'm thinking, oh, I need to get that report done. You're thinking we need to launch that careers website. But to me, my brain is just 10 to the dozen.
Yeah. And how do you feel, Jade? Because I know I have a real issue with this. If someone sends you an email and it's a really long email, I open the email and I close it and think I'll read that later. Yeah. If somebody sent me a WhatsApp message, you know, or a few bullet points, or an email that was short, to the point, I'd read it. How do you feel when you open these emails and it's just word, you know, just word after word after word? Do you think, oh, I can't deal with that right now?
It's really overwhelming. And it's not, again, you know, I'm going to refer back to what I said about it's not that I don't care. Look, people, because I've had that feedback so much, you just don't seem to care. You're
lazy. You're lazy. Yeah. You can't be bothered to do it right then. It's not that. It's just, it overwhelms you, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's overwhelming. And I will look for the information that I think is important. I'll skim read it. So that's why it's really important that you are really concise in your language. If you want somebody that's who has ADHD or who is neurodiverse to get something done, it's really important that you are concise and you tell them when you want it done. Because if I think of one of my old bosses, Kat, I'm sure she might even be on the call. She won't mind me saying, but she learned quite quickly. She didn't give me a date and really short time frames.
It wasn't going to get done.
Didn't do it, and it wasn't because I'd forget or I'd jump onto the next thing because I wanted to get things done so quickly. So yes, it's overwhelming. I think us with, you know, we have ADHD, we also need to appreciate people that work differently to us as well. I'm not saying that everybody needs to change their language style or the way they talk, but it's really important to have those considerations if you want that employee to work effectively and get things done when you want them to, because their timelines could be completely different to yours.
Yeah, agree. In fact, I've just had it recently where I built a new one of the new job boards, Diversity Jobs Recruit, and had a developer working on it, and me and him work very differently. So I want to talk it through. I want to be visual. He'll be going, we need to move this on the website, and I'll be there running away doing it while we're still on the phone. And he'd be bringing me back going, Nikki, we can't do it like that. We need to put it on a plan, and then you go off and do it when we're not on the call. And I'm like, but I can't work like that. If you said it now, I need to do it now, because if I don't do it now, it won't get done. So we
Yeah.
we have to compromise. We have to do my call, because that's how I learn.
Yeah.
That's how I take it in. I've got my actions. I'm doing them there and then.
Yeah.
We come off the call. He's written all the notes and he sends it across in an email, because that's how he works.
Yeah.
I'm probably not going to read them notes. I'm not going to lie. However, we have to work together, because I work one way and he works another way. But in the
Yeah.
end, we got there, right?
No,
We got there. But he's been honest and going, I do not work like you. And he went, but I don't work like you. Okay, let's compromise and let's do both.
In the middle, and I think that's it. And
yeah,
you know, Nathan made a good point there on the chat. The fact that if there is no consequence to that either, so you know, you put a deadline on something, but then there's no consequence. Because people with ADHD work under pressure, and they work to consequence effectively. You know, if I know if I don't put this through, the whole system's going to break down, I'll tell you, I'll do it. It'll be done there and then. And that's that. You know, I work to extreme pressure. Me and my husband are completely different. Where, you know, my husband's very, to probably say more on the autistic side. He likes to be on time. He likes to be organised. Whereas I'm the complete opposite. We go to the airport, we're running late. He's really struggling with that. I'll be absolutely fine. I'll coping. I don't see any problem with that at all. So you can see it in your personal life as well. And then I suppose just being aware that how, well, I've had to be aware all of my life how my actions and how the way I work impact other people as well. I'm not saying I need lots of help here. I need everybody to change the way they work with me. But I do need people to consider this is a real disability, and I'm not. I didn't go through this process to have a day off, if you like. It's because I felt like something was seriously wrong, and that was confirmed. So as long as you said, Nick, you've got to learn a way to work together. Put things in place to help those people, because they can't. You know, I've been really successful with the right leader who's took the time to understand me.
And having that support around you, because not everybody can have that you work with would have ADHD. But I think having that power to think, I've got this, I'll be the risk taker, I'll be the one that goes off, does it, hyper focus, gets it started at pace. But actually you have people behind you, not picking up the car crash, but just making sure that everything you've done to get there quickly and to get it done is then working as it should, maintaining it, and all the other things that go with keeping a business going. Because typically people with ADHD, and I say typically, we get bored. We want the next thing. We want the next hyper focus. We want to move on to the next thing. And what we don't want to do is carry on doing the gardening, behind us. And that's typically.
Definitely. And I think, if I look back at my career, when I've hired people into my resourcing teams, I've done that. I've looked for people that are good at the detail, that can put a process together, are analytical, because my strength is to drive things forward and to make things happen and to get people excited about it and to effectively bring the tribe with me and create something. I love creating a brand. I love talking about what it's like to work for the business I'm working for, and I want to go and talk about that out in the field. Whereas I think it's really important. We talk about this lots in competency-based assessments and also competency-based L&D platforms, etc., where we look for certain competencies for different roles. And I think, as you just said, Nicky, if we want to drive something forward, then you want the drivers at the front, i.e. maybe me and you, to get that idea out there, and then you need that support network around you to make sure we've got the detail in place, and that's really important.
No, agree. One of the things I've got on my notes, so I feel like I have to say, is one of the things that I find that I'm pretty good at is I recognise faces. This has impacted me in the workplace, but for the life of me, I can't remember people's names. I really struggle with that. They don't go in, but if I see somebody, I'll have glanced at them for 10 seconds. I'll remember them for life.
But
exactly. There's not a chance I'll remember their name.
Or, me and you spoke about this, haven't we, Nicky? the name thing, definitely, because I don't ever remember names. I feel awful. I could have met somebody 15 times sometimes, and it still hasn't stuck for some reason.
Yeah.
But the other thing for me is I can walk into the room, and this, you know, if you have got an ADHD person in your team or anybody that sits on the spectrum, ask them what the mood is in the room, because they will tell you straight away if that project has landed, or if there's something going on, or if there's I don't know, for some reason there's some conflict. Because I don't know, I used to say it was I was telepathic, but obviously I wasn't. I had ADHD.
Yeah.
I could walk into a room and I could tell you what the mood was before anybody said anything. And if you really want a real good insight to what's going on in your business, ask that person to tell you what they think. And more than 99% of the time they'll be right, because they've felt the mood, they've felt the issue before.
They just get it. Yeah.
And it's so many years of having to think on your feet, because we work in that way all the time. We see things before it's spotted. I'm really good at problem solving from afar. So my husband could be sat trying to sort something out in front of me, and I'll go, well, why did you not just do this and this, or can you not just do this and this? And he's like, oh wow, I would never have thought of that, because you can see almost you can go up into a higher space and just see everything at once. Whereas if you don't have ADHD, you would look at it as a singular task and not see the other options. So that's a massive benefit as well, especially when you're trying to launch something and spotting errors in launching a product or a tool maybe.
Absolutely. And one thing that I've noticed that I do a lot is somebody will go to tell me something and I'll be like, I just get it. You don't need to carry on, you don't need to keep going into the detail. I get it. I instantly feel like I've got it. And then I'll start asking questions, and actually that individual has not finished talking, because if I'd have just let my ears just carry on and just they'd have finished and I'd have had all my questions answered. But I feel like I can't. I have to go in there and ask all these questions. I'm like, if you let me finish, I'd have actually got there. And I'm like, I haven't got time.
And
I need to be on to the next thing.
And I think you're right. So the other thing for me is as well, I've had feedback before where people say she's quite intense. She asks question after question after question.
Yeah.
I know you get this as well, Nikki. Well, it's not.
I
don't mean to be. I don't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable. But my head is jumping to the next. Like, I'm like, right, okay. If that's the answer, then what's this? What's next? And I'm like 15 years ahead in the future. Well, this person's still 2 minutes into our conversation. So I think ahead, and I think futuristically, which is sometimes I have to slow my pace, because I know, and I can sometimes see it in people's faces, they feel quite intimidated by the questioning, which is never the intent, but because I really want to get to the point, to your point, I rush it along, which is
a lot.
I get that a lot. Just you want to know the answer that you're looking for.
I get it. Yeah, I get it a lot. We've gone, I don't know what questions I've asked you and what questions you've answered. So this is typically us, Jade. So let me just skim through. I think we've done the first three. What support systems have you found helpful since being diagnosed with ADHD? And have you encountered any resources that have played a crucial role in assisting you in both your personal and professional? So is there anything now you've diagnosed that you're doing differently, any medication or anything like that you feel comfortable talking about?
So after I was diagnosed, the psychiatrist recommended trying medication, and I have been taking medication successfully for the last year. I'm not going to lie, the first 6 weeks were pretty horrendous. I was anxiety ridden, because it is effectively, as we were talking about, caffeine is a stimulant. That hence why caffeine helps people with ADHD. The drug I'm on is Alvance. It's a stimulant. So to begin with, felt really uncomfortable, but now it's completely normal, and it gets me out of bed. I really struggled with, I suppose, because I was so, and this is the way it's been explained to me. Imagine just thinking about so many things all the time at once. Exhaustion is real. It's not. It's like my brain has done 20 marathons effectively versus someone doing 2 marathons, because I thought so much throughout the day. So getting out of bed was a real struggle to even get anywhere. So since having the medication, that has worked tremendously. I can get up in the morning. I have a routine in the morning. I log on in the morning. Whereas if I think back to a time in my life where I wasn't on medication, if I was really feeling really stressed and down, some days I couldn't even get out of bed, and it was because I was emotionally exhausted, but then also depressed and angry at myself because I couldn't get out of bed and I didn't know why. So the medication has been phenomenal. I think the other big thing is creating routine. You know, I'm saying this, but I'm still struggling with it myself. But more so recently, I've been able to create a getting up time, and I've got up at that time. Routine is massive. If you can get out of bed at the same time every day, you do a certain thing every day, and you start to remember that routine, and you know, you consistently live by that routine, it does really help. If I tried to have done that on medication, it wouldn't have worked. And people could have told me all day long, create a routine, but it wouldn't have worked. But on medication, it works. So, and that I'm really thankful for that. It's the other thing as well is, you know, in the workplace, a lot of the time you get told, write a to-do list, or you should have planned that better, or you should have done that last minute, you should have checked that. Really sorry, but and no matter how hard I try, I'm just not very good at that, and it's part of my disability. So yeah, what I have learned is to be open and honest. Now I have been diagnosed, to tell people where my strengths lie and tell people how I can help them, and how I can drive things forward. And rather than pretending I can do everything, because I can't, and actually be brave enough to ask for support. And it is tough sometimes, because people still now raise their eyebrows at ADHD and don't think it's a real thing. But believe me, it bloody is. And it was actually really hard for some points in my life. But no, medication has definitely really helped, and creating routines really help. And then in a professional life, being honest and asking for support. I mean, and if you are the leader yourself, asking questions and really understanding what their triggers are. You know, mine was feeling the feeling of rejection, being left out, which is quite common in ADHD. So actually, just to be included on an email made a massive difference, and I was happy.
Not that you'd read it all the time, but you included, right?
Just to know that I was included made a massive difference. Yeah. And if that's all your team member needs is a little CC or a diary reminder, well, you know, do it. It will help them massively, and they will be more successful. And some people just don't do it, and that's that we really need to create awareness to help people understand it better, because none of these people are trying not to work. They're not work shy, as I've been told before in the past. It's because they just procrastinate and they need support to get it done. But yeah, medication has been a godsend, and yeah, I've worked double the amount without that procrastination since taking it. So if you're on that diagnosis journey, keep going, give it a try. I know it's not for everybody, and I'm not a medical person, but it's really worked for me.
Great, thanks, Jade. I think that's covered some of the last point, which is looking in the future. What changes or initiatives do you hope to see in workplaces to support? So I think you covered some of that. One of the things that I'd say is, and it helps me, is let me do it there and then. So if I am on a call and they say, oh, should we book a call in for 2 weeks' time? Let me do it while we're on the call. Let me put the calendar invite in for that call in 2 weeks' time. Because otherwise, if I come off the call, my brain's gone over there or there or there or there. Now, I've not officially been diagnosed, but every time I've listened to several podcasts about ADHD, me and you speak daily, like you said, there's absolutely, I've definitely got traits of that. Yeah. So I'm just going to, I'm conscious of Q&A, but just some of the superpowers of ADHD. So I think we've touched on it. Creativity, massive. Hyperfocus, energetic approach, rapid problem solving. Jade, you mentioned that. Innovative thinking, adaptability, entrepreneurial spirit, passionate pursuits, resilience, multitasking, intuition and empathy. You touched on that, and I think sometimes you just get it. Strong social skills, hyper-focus in relationships, we know about this. Effective communication, fun and spontaneous. Definitely.
Yeah, so if you want some fun in your team, you need some ADHD people in your team or ADD people in your team, because I tell you what, I always create the fun. So does Nicky, and again, that's lovely feedback to have. And I think I got that all the time. I can see myself. Don't want to see myself.
Oh,
Nicky
sorry,
Wright.
I'll stop sharing. I'm just trying to read the comments. Jade, I noticed your eyes were going at some point, so I think some of the questions you might have done. Writing a to-do list is easy. Doing anything on it is. Oh, hang on a sec. Let's have a look. Questions. Questions. Thanks, Carly. Did you go through the NHS for diagnosis, Jade?
I tried, and I think I did answer that. That question probably came just before. I tried, but nothing was happening, so I went private in the end. So if anyone wants the details, I can pass those on to where I went privately.
Fabulous, thanks. Another one, Simon's son wasn't diagnosed at school and was treated really badly.
And that's so sad, Simon, because I hear this all the time, and I think, I don't know, I get emotional, but if I think back to my small little self at school, feeling inadequate and feeling like I just couldn't get stuff done. I couldn't get my homework done, and I lost my homework all the time. I feel really sorry for little Jade, and you know, same with your son, because she didn't know what was going on and she just needed help, but it wasn't recognised. So yes, keep trying with your son. It's a hard slog, but yeah, they need that support. It's really important.
I've got a question on here, Jade. How much does a private diagnosis cost? And then I think Ruth's put it can be anything from 500. Can you remember how much you paid?
It was about 250 for initial assessment, and then it was probably around another 250 for final assessment. So yeah, it was around about that. And then I did have to pay for medication for the first few months before it was passed on to shared care with the NHS.
Thank you, Jade. A bit of feedback here. Thanks, Carly. This is why I need people around me. Lots of tears, emotion of people who are connecting with Jade's story. Love that.
I feel you guys. Let's become a tribe.
Tribe.
I feel emotional as well. It's a really emotional story to tell. Because you do. I mean, I'm no victim, am I, Nicky? Nicky knows this. I do not take victim mentality well, but I do kind of feel for my old self, because if I could have helped her, then there could have been lots of situations where it could have been resolved, and it didn't, you know. And you know, I was very emotionally, where I was then in phases of depression, and you know, very, very, very dark times. But yes, I feel you all. If you've been going through a similar thing, it is really tough.
Another couple of things: access to work process and some suggestions on what could look like in the ADD ADHD case. Access to work process.
So you can apply for the access to. Yeah, you can apply for access to work, which I did do when I was diagnosed, and it didn't actually come through until I was made redundant. So it was of no use at that point. But yes, you can apply on .gov website, which apparently they will support with funding and anything you need to do to alter the workplace, to support with the workplace. So definitely worth giving a go if you haven't done already.
What medication did you say you took? I used to take some medication, but it has some not so nice side effects, so I came off it. Which one was it, Jade?
I'm on Alvance, 40 milligrams. I know there's stuff such as Ritalin. There's another one with a really long name, but I've settled quite well on 40 milligrams of Alvance. I did go up to 60, but it was too much, so I came down to 40, which, as I mentioned before, gets me out of bed, gets things done, and I feel a lot more positive throughout the day.
Thank you. Right, some more, Jade. Jade, this is from Lucy. Very similar to you. I take rejection badly. Oh, it's gone up. Hang on, bear with me. Another one came in when I was just reading that. Oh, hang on. Jade, very similar to you. I take rejection badly. Do you have any tips you've learned in your career to take rejection feedback less to the heart? That is a good question.
Lucy, I'm not going to lie, it doesn't really go away. I think what you can do is just make sure that the leader that you're talking to understands how you will react or what your feelings are, how you react to certain situations. I found that's works well. If I take it, for example, Kat, who I worked with previously, she was aware that I could get quite emotional when it came to feedback. So beforehand, she'd prep me. She'd make sure that the information was shared beforehand. So I wasn't walking into it effectively reacting, which was really helpful. But yeah, unfortunately, the medication has helped actually, in terms of emotional. Sorry, somebody's at my door, guys. The medication, live TV, medication has really helped. But with that rejection sensitive dysphoria as well, I don't react as much anymore. So if you're not on it and you going on it, it does really help. So that's the other thing. And also to just take a minute. I'm sure people have said this to you before, Lucy, but yeah, don't write that email.
You do, don't you? I've been in the past, and you've had an email through, you've taken it, and you've written the email back with emotion. You know, even on the keyboard, you've been tapping that hard, or I have. And then I send it, and then the next day when I've calmed down a bit, I read this email back, thinking, "Blimey, I really let that one go." You know, so it's maybe just sit on your hands, thinking, "I don't need to reply with the emotion."
I think also and this is, my husband said this to me, and I've learned from my husband a lot as well. Obviously, he's the opposite end of the scale, but he says, don't always take things with bad intent. I think everyone's out to get me, but obviously they're not. It's just that's how my disability receives things.
Take it personally all the time. Everything. When someone's saying something about, I don't know, a website, because I've had involvement in that website, I take it so personally. I'm just like, that's it. They're just having a go at me. And actually, you're right. They're not, are they? I've sent you emails before, and because you haven't got the emotion, actually, that's a really good coping mechanism. And if you do, so there's times that I've had emails come through from people, and I will send that to Jade and say, you know, I'll ring Jade up and I'll have this massive rant where Jade doesn't get a word in edgeways, and then she'll ring me back and go, right, I've read the email. This is what it's saying, but I don't see what Jade's saying. But because you hadn't got the emotion attached with who it had come from, you've actually read it how probably it was intended. So I think that is a good coping mechanism. I've got a couple of other questions, Jade, if that's all right. Nathan, I am new to the UK and not sure how to ask for support in the workplace or what support even looks like for me, as I didn't have that in South Africa. Any reasonable adjustments that you would suggest? I should highlight in my upcoming end of probation, I've been dreading this and falling behind. I mean, I'm going to say, you know, if you've got ADHD.
If you definitely know you've got it, Nathan, or even if you don't know you've got it, I think you need to be really honest and say you want access to work, because if you've applied, and I think do that right now when you get off the call. I'm sure it's on the .gov website, or just type in access to work. If you make an application, your workplace does need to support that, and that will help you with your probation conversation as well if you've applied for the access to work. So make sure you do that, but also honesty is really important. If you don't feel like you can talk to your line manager for whatever reason, if there's a HR person or somebody at a support team, and just be honest, because you're not doing this on purpose. You have a disability, so you need the support to be successful. Just work a little bit differently than everybody else.
Thanks, Jade. I've got this one that's come through from Jordan. Tips for parents that had children with ADHD. The carrot is always better than the stick. The goal is to get their emotional levels and the momentum high. Carrot pushes them up and stick pushes them down. That's good. ADHD, hyperactive or attentive, comes with periods of depression, sometimes for no reason whatsoever. Just accept that and give them a good environment to ride it out. Just off the back of that, one of the things that I listened to a podcast yesterday was about women more so with ADHD and their cycles, and how it can basically hypersensitize you. That's probably not
definitely
the right word. During those periods, and when your hormones drop, it can make it even worse. So it's more so that you're probably more extreme than you would be if you were neurotypical. There's my tangent. Right, my boss says that all the time. She's good sounding board. Mine was contra, I think, which was a strain of Oh, is this another medication, Morgan, which was another strain of Ritalin, and it made my mental health suffer badly, as well as loss of appetite. Unfortunately, doctor told me I was making it up and put me back on it. I went to a different doctor and came off it.
Wow. I mean, yeah, it does really depend on the doctor as well. My doctor was quite helpful.
Tips for RSD. Reserve the situation in your head. Imagine it was you that left someone out of something or said something. That's a really good one. Flip it on its head. In a specific tone, it's much easier than to imagine reasons for what they could be that aren't that they hate you. Mistakes are made. Give them the benefit of the doubt. So
yeah, and that's it.
Is, and, I've done that. What would I say?
It's easy to, you know, your example, Nikki, of me reading the email. I'm like, no, they meant that this is what you need to do. There's no intent there. Whereas you sit on the other side, you have to almost take a minute and go, right, do they really hate me? Are they leaving me out on purpose? Of course they're not, but it doesn't take the pain away. And I think that's the thing that we have to remember. So regardless if I know in my head that isn't the case, I still feel that emotion. And it feels the same way if I was actually left out at a kid's party and wasn't given a present. You know, it sounds ridiculous, but that emotion that you feel, you can't control it sometimes. Obviously, as I've got older, I've learned to maybe walk away, or I've, you know, I've not responded to the email, or I've come back at another time, but the feeling's still there. Unfortunately, that feeling hasn't gone away from me totally.
Email, when they flip in, it confuses me. Bear with. Emails and instant messages are actually really bad. They lack emotion and tone, and we are great at assuming the worst. Also, by being so blunt, direct, taps can allow others to assume we are more critical than we intend. Voice calls are always better for me, and especially for disputes. I absolutely agree. I've got into the habit now, and I've got Carly sat opposite me that you can't see, but we send voice notes quite a lot because I think you can gauge the tone. So yes, you might not have time for a call, but I send a lot of voice notes rather than typing a message out that can get misconstrued.
And I suppose the only point to note that's really important to me. I need to hear the emotion behind it, but then also if you want somebody to do something, the follow-up is really important. So the actual timeline, time and date, what you need to do by when, the concise language needs to happen afterwards. Otherwise, there'll be a lot of back and forth and nothing will get done.
Exactly that. The extended release had assisted me with the crashing. Anyone on both stimulant and non-stimulant, I'm considering dual therapy to help me with executive dysfunction and task switching. I don't know. I've not got an answer for that, but
I can relate a little bit. I have experienced the crash. Was probably when I was on a lower dose, hence why I went on to a higher dose. I tended to crash around 2 p.m, which felt I had headaches, didn't feel very good. I don't get that now. The dose is slightly higher. But yes, I can relate to that. I think, yeah, you've really got to look into what the what medication is as well. The other thing I will say as well, it has really helped me create a routine, and it does help me get things done, but it still doesn't help me focus on the things I do need to get done. So it still does need to be right in front of me, and it does still need to excite me. What it does do though, for the less boring tasks, even though I'll still leave them to the last minute or the last task, it does help me get started. So it will make me start. Whereas, you know, if I can think back to my past self, I might have left it right until the morning of and been full of anxiety and threat, and whereas that doesn't happen so much any longer. But you do really need to get started on the task you want to do when you start your meds, or you could end up just cleaning the house for 3 hours. Trust me, I've been there.
That's really good. BA, I can't see a full name there, but tips for anyone seeking diagnosis. When I first went to the GP, they were quite dismissive and referred me for depression and anxiety. I've had exactly that. This round, I did all the research and went to the GP with a list of symptoms, how I related, and examples from daily life, which made all the difference in getting them to listen. I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, that's what happened to me. I was actually put on depression medicine.
and I've been enjoying Lunar Task lately. There's a link on there. Thank you so much, Jordan. A task management app made for people with ADHD, tasks, habits, notes, mood tracking. Absolutely going to download that. Quick question: does anyone experience starting multiple tasks and completing them at the same time, but never in a logical order? Absolutely.
Yeah, and to this person,
All day, every day.
Everybody else looking at from the outside world of why have you done it that way around? Well, it makes sense to me because that's how my brain works. But to somebody that is neurotypical, they will think, why did you do that? Why did you do it that way around? And I'm like, well, mate, it makes perfect sense because I needed to do that because I was going that way, and then it makes if you do tangent all together, it does actually make some sense, but to other people they just think
PowerPoint presentations, for example, or any presentations I've ever done in the past, I start with the last slide, and then work backwards. So 100% all my life I considered myself as a good multitasking and juggling things. Then I realized I had a short attention span and as incapable of finishing tasks. I love these conversations because I really feel, and I'm bringing it to a close, guys. I've loved the conversation, Jade, but the more we talk, the more I think I'm not alone. We're not alone. We're all very similar. It's just sharing best practice, coping mechanisms, what you've done that actually works that we can share. Worth noting that circa 60% of autistic people also have ADHD. It's a very different world with both.
No, and I have a friend that has that, and she struggles daily with fighting between the two. And I, sometimes wonder myself, I do have some of those traits, but I can't have everything, can I? So but anyway, and what I did want to say, if you do want to work with someone like-minded, as I said to you, I've just set up my own talent solutions business, so I can work with you on anything from action planning, getting things started, because that's what I'm good at, creating futuristic creative plans, resourcing, recruitment, talent, because that's what I'm good at, and I can get things, I can drive things forward for you. So and I'm available on a contract or interim basis. But great to meet you all.
And you're on LinkedIn, Jade Pheby, so if anybody's on LinkedIn,
please connect with me after the call. Like, be good, Nikki, it'd be good if we could create almost like a little community after this.
What I was going to do, so just hopefully you can see my last slide, just thanking everybody. I was going to see if I could do something on LinkedIn where I create the ADHD community within Diversity Jobs Group, see if I can do a separate community page, but leave it with me. I've got all the people that attended on the call. This is recorded. I'm going to send it out. I promise, Jade. I'm going to send this out by tomorrow. So that is going to go out by tomorrow, so you can watch the recording, share it with anybody, and yes, let's get something set up where we can share some best practice. And if you've commented and we've not answered that question, then apologies. We will try and come back to you, Jade Wright, or reach out. So Nicky Wright, LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. We'll reach out if you've got any questions, or I can help you with anything talent orientated. Let me know.
Lovely. I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you so much, Jade. Thank you, everyone,
Thanks,
for
Nikki.
participating. See you soon.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye. Bye.